Hello and welcome to the Film Club. This is episode 2 of The Lounge, where today we will be talking about controversy. And I'm with my guest, Brian Johnson. Well, there's a whole array of controversial films across Hollywood and world cinema. I mean, what would be for you one of the most talked about films generally?
Generally, most talked about, I think would be for me the Serbian film. Even though a lot of people haven't seen it, they've heard of it.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, when I watched that, it's the epitome of controversial.
I did warn you when I showed you the film.
Yes.
I did warn you what it was going to be like, and I think it's enough. When people tell you what the film's going to be like, you don't accept it's going to be as graphic.
I think with controversy, there's an area of intrigue and mystery and enigma. You want to go out and watch the film just for the shock value in some cases, and I think that's certainly the case with that.
I will say for me, a lot of films I have watched, generally horror films, have been because they promise to deliver some kind of shock value that I'm seeking out. They don't always deliver it.
Some sort of, it's like they connect with the audience via just antisocial and delinquent sort of morals, or something that's genuinely shocking and just not normal in like a cohesive society, like emotions that don't coexist with one another. Like within the Serbian film, you've got the themes of, well, not only rape, incest, but also the gratification that is suggested from it from both the gender role in terms of the male getting all the pleasure.
Yeah.
So it's quite hedonistic and it's a dangerous film if you're looking at morals.
Very dangerous, I'd say it. One of the things I'm glad you picked up when we watched it, you picked up from it, was there's a lot of subtle things in it that were kind of showing how some things to do with, I mean, the film was basically about sex, wasn't it? There was a lot of things in there, things that weren't actually harmful in it, but because of the way it was seen, can be harmful. The scene, I don't mind giving away these certain things with these films because you're either going to watch it or you're not.
Yeah.
But the scene where the boy is becoming interested in his own body and he's talking to his parents about masturbation.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scenes between the father and son throughout that.
With his father obviously being this aging porn star or whatever he is. There's that sort of connection between the child who's obviously interested and curious, sexually curious, but to see a child being sexually curious in cinema is still a moot point. It's very controversial and debatable. Like, should we be showing that? I don't know. What do you think?
Personally, I think there are justified reasons for showing anything in a film. However, you've got to be able to justify it.
Yeah.
You can't have something in a film for the sake of it being there. That's not just things of controversy. You can do that about anything. Like, consider the films like action films that you think have had a car chase or explosion that wasn't really necessary.
They're not really justified.
There would be many.
There would be many.
I've read notions and ideas that a Serbian film was made in a socio-political sense, that it tries to ignite debate deliberately, and it's like saying about the political situation of Serbia that all the people are getting fucked over, for want of a better phrase, but that was the quote. And these people are literally in the film being fucked over,
quite literally,
because that's all they are. It's objective. It objectifies the women in it, and it's disgraceful in that sense for me. It's something that I abhor. I couldn't connect with any of the film's sort of political intentions or social intentions because I don't think they're true in that sense. But I know you had a different sort of reading of it.
For me, the main reason I like watching this film isn't because of what's in it. It's because I find it quite good that there are filmmakers out there who are still willing to push what is acceptable in order to get their work out there. Because for the English and American copies of this film, a lot of it is cut out.
4 minutes is cut
4
out.
minutes cut out.
To the PDF scene.
And it's mainly the final part of the film, with the kind of the epitomising of the sexual thing that's been building up for the whole film.
And that is where it all comes out.
Because it is, in essence, it deals. The themes in it are illegal, really.
Yeah, and even not just in this country, but even where it's made, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not worse, or it's more considered, oh my god, they put this in the film here. But it still is, even in Serbia, where it came from. It's
Yeah,
still considered...
yeah. There's a lawsuit over it.
Yeah.
I believe at the moment. I mean, with that side of sex, it brings me to what I was thinking in terms of controversy with Clockwork Orange, where we've got this delinquent teenager on a sort of hedonistic spree of self-discovery and maybe sort of liberation, in which there's scenes of rape which were obviously in the 70s highly controversial, and gang violence as well, of course, which violence is another polemic issue.
You said with the Serbian film you felt you couldn't connect with it in any way because of the things that were in it. With A Clockwork Orange, did you feel you could connect with this film?
Yeah, I connect with Clockwork Orange in the sense that there's these themes of a teenager in angst, in sort of rebellion, this teenager who's got these social pressures and wants to just get rid of them all. Serbian film felt like it was trying to force its politics on me. Clockwork Orange felt it was, for me, I felt that the issues were trying to be tackled and raised by Kubrick, and in typical Kubrickian style. The sex in Serbian film is gratuitous, and it's a ridiculous plot, for one.
Yeah.
It's immoral. I'm not saying Clockwork Orange is moral, but in Clockwork Orange it's much about liberation, freedom, self-discovery, and in that there's that big moral debate about free will. In Serbian film he clearly has free will and he's abused it. In Clockwork Orange it's the same. He has this free will and he's abused it, and then he goes out and commits these delinquent acts, these socially retrograde things such as the violence, and other films have been criticised for their indulgence in violence, such as Fight Club, for example, where we've got the scenes in the basement where Brad Pitt espouses his dictator-esque sort of philosophy about violence is what an inner primal thirst is about. It's our right as a man to discover our power again, and that was a controversial sort of philosophy when that film came out. I don't know what you thought.
To be honest, I get all your points you've made, but for me, it was still, I found Clockwork Orange to be quite otherworldly, too far out from realism for me. So I couldn't connect it in the same way.
That's strange, because I see Clockwork Orange as like the glittering parable of realism in terms of how rules and sort of political meanings can really influence the day-to-day running of people's lives in terms of either accepting these rules or rebelling against these rules.
And in the film they rebel against these rules, and that was what caused the controversy, of course, when it came out in UK culture. Of course there was the spreads in the papers like the Daily Mail and stuff that just said, look, let's analyse what's going on in society, and they said that Clockwork Orange was influencing attacks on people and stuff, and you know the story.
That's right, yeah.
But like I said, I just didn't. Something, I mean, maybe I'll go back and watch it again, make it feel different, because I haven't watched it for quite a few years now. But at the time I watched it, I didn't feel connected to the film in the same way you seem to describe you have.
Yeah, it's very much thematic, but controversy is a matter of being objective and analysing a film in a way where you think it's got to be either, I think, socially abnormal, psychologically abnormal, or culturally just unacceptable for a film to obviously be controversial. And I mean, with Visitor Q, we could even talk about that.
I've noticed, by the way, most films that are from foreign cinema, unless they are publicised here, they can have anything they want from them and no one really cares.
Yeah, I mean, Visitor Q is a very sort of, it's an unnoticed film. It's one of those sort of quiet films that no one really knows.
Yeah, if someone doesn't tell you about it, you're not going to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You had no idea
I
when
didn't know
I
about
showed you
it, and I mean, I do have a fair knowledge of world cinema. I didn't even hear about it, but yeah, and again, that's to do with issues surrounding with sex, happiness, and society. And in essence, it is a satire. because the Visitor Q character is a parody of, maybe of God, I don't know.
I believe I did read somewhere in, like, I think it might have been Wikipedia,
Yeah.
where I think he was not God as much, but Jesus is kind of it.
Yeah.
As he kind of brings this he appears, he creates chaos, but the outcome of it in the end
It's solace.
It's quite peaceful at the end. And even though it might be quite obscure the way it's happening and quite demented even with some of the things that
Yeah.
you see in the film, at the end the family's together and they're more happy than they were at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So it's in some respects, you know, some films are controversial, but their messages do hit home.
Visitor Q, we've got the controversy of a dysfunctional family relationship, in essence, between all three, isn't it? Three characters, the son, the father and the mother.
There's the main character,
And then
of
the
course you have the
daughter
daughter who seems to be kind of the message of the prodigal daughter,
Yeah.
who is left completely, who, because of the madness that this visitor has caused,
This
she
is
also...
not part of the family home.
No, she turns
So
up
in
with
Visitor Q, we've got this controversial, dysfunctional relationship, and that's solved. In Clockwork Orange, we've got this rebellious teenage youth who espouses his views on violence and philosophies of socially wrong things, and he gets cured, albeit questionably, you know.
Yeah.
And with Fight Club, we've got violence and man's inner search for masculinity, and because there is a crisis of masculinity, it's argued sociologically. And within Fight Club, they try and say that obviously men has been stripped of their primal and animalistic nature for a consumer advertising sort of culture. So that's sort of a controversial notion because it questions the whole of society. It questions our culture, it questions the way we live, the way we shop, everything, even down to how the protagonist sleeps, because he's an insomniac.
Yeah.
So it questions our day-to-day routine, and it says, look, strip it back, and what do we have in life?
Exactly.
And that's controversy.
That's basically what controversy is.
That's controversy. Pretty much.
Pretty much. I mean, main ones we've talked about today are sexual controversy and violence. However, I mean, I just want to briefly point out the horror side of it, which always seems to be more argued with, because we seem to think, well, what we do, but a lot of people seem to think that if it's a horror film, kids are going to want to see it, and the more graphic it is, the more it's going to damage them.
Yeah, there's an age advancement theory which says like a teenager will feel a lot older watching a more violent film and a more horrific film. So, for example, I do think that theory is true, actually. I mean, I remember when I was in sort of my teenage years trying to think about watching things like Hostel and Saw, just for the fact that it makes you feel brave and courageous for watching this material, which in essence, some of it is sort of this torture, sort of porn, as it's been branded, torture porn. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it certainly objectifies the torture and sort of makes us, it doesn't make us question it, it makes us believe it, that this is an enjoyable medium as a cinematic treat.
I think it was more so than Hostel. There was a bit of controversy surrounding that film we talked about. And you think about it, that was one of the first things coming up. Controversy surrounding that was that you saw a man cut his own leg off at the end of the film.
Yeah.
If you think back to the first film, apart from that, there wasn't really much
Not violence. No.
violence or
It's more
gore
mind.
in it. It's all mind.
Like
And then,
The box office has grown in terms of how much money they've made, but the content has changed from being psychological to overly violent, and as a process there's that sort of graph as such where it both rises as a direct correlation. So that's strange. That's another strange brand of controversy right there, really.
Really, yeah.
so if we think of any other good examples or anything else we want to talk about, we can make a second episode to carry this on, but I think we've covered what we've set out to cover.
So that's it for the film club and the lounge. We've discussed controversy in a great deal in terms of different points, sexual, psychological, political, and that's it really. Thanks for watching.